Construction has begun on Hogger. Keep watching to get a detailed explanation to what has gone into the making of the legs to this point. Hello, I'm Kaz, and welcome to my lair. Now it's time for another update on my BlizzCon 2017 cosplay project, which is Hogger. Now, you've seen my concept sculpt, and you've seen the cardboard prototype that I built. Now it's time for the actual build. Now this video will cover part 1 of the build, which is the leg structure. And then in part 2 of the legs, I will show the furring and detail work on them. Now, if you remember from my concept sculpt, my legs will be exposed, and Hogger's legs will be on the outside, and his legs and feet will be on the outside of my legs. And I found from my cardboard prototype that the important attachment points are at my hip and at my foot. So I started with the foot. As you can see, I've started with a pair of Airwalks. This is a pair of shoes that I've broken in, that I've worn for a few years. Hadn't worn really lately, so I decided to use them for this project. I like how they're a really slim shoe. Since my foot will be exposed, I like that this had the smallest profile possible. Now, and I attached it to some EVA that I carved out this foot. You'll see later I go back in time and show you what it was before this stage. But it's really solidly connected to the shoe, and I did that with some metal like this. I took and put some bolts through this, pulled out the sole of the shoe, the inner sole of the shoe, and bolted it through, and then attached it to the EVA foam in a similar fashion. To make sure that those bolts wouldn't scratch the floor, I also added a layer of EVA foam and rubber matting under my shoe to just hide those up, make it so it doesn't click. It's still very comfortable. Now the paw pads I sculpted out of EVA foam with the sanding drum on my Dremel, just really gotten to shape them. And then I covered them with a product called Creature Cast. It is a neoprene rubber, essentially like a synthetic latex that is used for coating. I found out about this from Evil Ted. I highly recommend looking up his video on the subject. I'll link to it in the description so you can find it easy. But I put it on, stippling it on with a piece of reticulated foam. It has really big pores in it, so using that as stippling it, was able to get as much texture as I could on that part of the shoe. Now you'll see this even better in a later part of the video, but the inside of these toes, this gray part, was sculpted out of EVA. I wanted that there because it's a firm attachment point for the claws. As you can see, they're not going anywhere. And I carved them in a shape that kind of resembled actual anatomy of what a bone structure looks like. And then I used just regular upholstery foam and carved it in place to fill out the rest of the toe. Now this is also EVA, this is also upholstery foam, and this is fa shaped just to create a little receptacle for where the leg will slide right in there. And that's so that I can keep these parts separate. Now that I have the foot done, we can go to Past Me, and I'll show you how I did the bone structure of the leg. So here's the leg as well. Basically, these are just long pieces of EVA foam that I've cut into bone shapes using my knowledge of anatomy and rigging, where the pivot points should be. There's actually pivot points underneath this. These are separate pieces. There's an elastic over the top of this, glued in place to help bring it back to where it's supposed to go. so it springs just like a real skeletal system would. I just covered it over with a spandex sleeve just to add more support in there. Down in here I have magnets to help, and magnets down here to help attach it to the leg, but the foot is basically going to drive the motion. Now, if you'll remember from my cardboard tests, this is pretty much the same system, like having joints on the knees and stuff. I added a joint at the ankle so that it would bend a little smoother there, but it's basically the same principle, just more streamlined. So I'll show you how it works. Put the shoe on, take the foot, stick it down there, attach all the magnets, and now it's fully attached. So as you can see, like, the movement works pretty good. Driving it from the foot is important because it makes it behave kind of like a real leg. If you are familiar with 3D rigging, it's kind of like an IK handle. And this makes it so that there's not a whole lot of pressure on these right now. These aren't carrying hardly any weight at all. It's my foot that's carrying the weight. So I think that'll be important for when I start adding the muscles on, that to keep these pretty lightweight. Right now they're just attached via safety pins and an elastic to the top of my leg. I'll be attaching that more securely, but it'll be really important to keep these pretty flexible. Of course, like you can see, the knees are all wobbly right now. Me adding structure and volume to the Hogger's actual leg will help stabilize the knee, but I gotta be careful not to inhibit any movement. So that's what I've done with the legs, with Hogger's legs, and I hope you're excited to see the next step with the muscles. So now it's time to show you the muscles that I did. You can see I added suspenders just in case they started getting even heavier to help support it. But if you move the camera down, you can see the finished muscle structures of the legs. Now, all of them are made the same way, just spandex pillows basically sewn in specific shapes and then sewn and glued in place. So you see the movement that we had before is still preserved, but the leg is now fleshed out. So I did try to reference anatomy while building this. For example, like these muscles here act as like the abductors in your legs. I do have some glutes. Pardon these pins, I'm still got a few more things to sew in place. I did make a little knobbly kneecaps, and they're actually EVA foam under there, so they're hard like kneecaps should be. And back here, this part, I referenced anatomy in knowing that this part of the calf area is bigger, but I didn't really follow exact muscles that were built. I just wanted to get the idea across, and that's fine. So I have like a big puffy muscle here, and then it tapers back to this area, which would be like your ankle. And then I have this tendon here. This is just elastic that I've doubled up, and down to the ankle, the foot, and the toes. Well, this is my dog, Nico. He's a cutie. And he's going to help me be an example of studying real life and anatomy. So the idea to do like the heel part of Hogger like I did came directly from him. If you take a look at his heel and feel right here, that is just a flap of skin. He has a really tight tendon right there. His bone is right there. But there's like just nothing in this whole area. It's empty, just like you see on my heel. So there you have it. This is all the muscle work. It was a lot of fun to do. I think that the movement is looking great. Oh, one thing that I failed to mention, the bone that was in this, I guess the calf area, that bone started flexing. It was only made out of 2 layers of EVA foam, so I ended up taking a plastic hanger and gluing it to the bone there to make it harder. I had the idea earlier that I should maybe wrap the bones in Warbla or Wonderflex, something stiff, but I didn't. I thought that that would make it hard to glue things too, so I had to come up with a fix on the fly. And that's about it. Like, if I were to start over on this, I would have reinforced every single bone with a rigid plastic piece or something like a dowel. But for now, for these, this will work just fine. And so that's a closer look at all the muscles. Next step is adding the fur. So I hope you enjoyed that look at part 1 of the legs of my Hogger cosplay. I'm really excited with the progress. I think the legs are moving great, and it's just how I envisioned, so I'm really excited to move on to part 2. Now part 2 will come after a move. That's right, we're moving to a new place, and actually my lair, my working space that I have in this new house is awesome. It's huge, spread out. I'll have a dedicated recording area and all sorts of things. I'm so excited. I know I just did my lair tour of this. That was mostly to document this place and some of the organization things that I learned while redoing that I will serve me well in this new space. So next week we'll move. Hopefully I'll get set up and get right back to work on Hogger so I can provide you with more updates. If you liked what you watched and want to see more, please subscribe and you'll be notified each time that I upload so you can keep track of my progress. Also, you can follow me on a whole bunch of social media. You can find all the links in the description below. So until next time, I'm Kazul, reminding you to embrace your inner beast.